Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, video producer and a Christian. Putting on my civics and constitutional cap today on Electoral College, and that's kind of been fired up in this last president's election again, simply because the President Donald Trump did not receive the most popular votes, but was elected by the Electoral College system. So let's talk about that. Before we start, like and comment on my videos, subscribe to my channel. That'd be terrific and keep these talks going. Now, Donald Trump's election with fewer popular votes than Hillary Clinton has raised again the question of why the presidency is decided through an electoral college and not a popular vote. Even Trump in a comment said that seems like that would be sensible to have had win by popular vote. But let's go into that detail. It could be chaos without the electoral vote, and that's what we need to look at, is what the Electoral College is about. To make it simple, every state has a certain number of congressmen and senators, and that number is their electoral vote count. So it allows the small populated states to be able to compete and vote against the big population states, like something between California and Wyoming, which I have some relation to. It gives Wyoming some electoral power that they wouldn't have otherwise. The elements of what's called the Great Compromise among the large and small states led to the ratification of the Constitution. A House of Representatives would reflect the popular vote, disadvantaging the small states, but a Senate would give the small states equal representation with the large ones, as there's 2 senators for every state and different numbers for the Congress. Now, this idea was carried through to the Electoral College, where each state's allocation of electoral votes is simply the total of its representation of the House and the Senate. Now, this again gave the smaller states some additional power in the important choice of the president. Now, leaving aside the fact that a deal is a deal, there's very practical reasons why we will always need the Electoral College under our current constitutional system. Now, this important question is that we want the presidential election to settle the question of legitimacy. And this is where the big battle going on, I think, in the Washington, is one side does not accept the legitimacy of Trump's election. Now, under the Constitution, the person who receives the most electoral votes becomes the president, even if he or she does not receive either a plurality or a majority of the popular vote. Now, these 2 words are important to understand. In Bill Clinton's election in '92, who received a majority of electoral votes, was the duly elected president despite the fact that he received only a plurality of the popular votes available. He won 43% of the popular votes available, much less than a majority, but still won. Ross Perot, a third-party candidate, took 19% of those popular votes. That's a pretty good hunk. In fact, Clinton did not win a majority of the popular vote in either of his elections. Yet there was no doubt that he won because of the Electoral College. Now, this points to the reason why the Electoral College should remain an important element of the governmental structure. If we had a pure popular vote system, which is direct democracy, let me open up that a little bit, what direct democracy is. That's where everybody has an equal vote, such as what people are haranguing for, to have a direct vote, that the president be elected by the sheer number of votes. Such as a proposition in California. Propositions can be put forward by the people in California for certain laws through a system we have of direct democracy. Referendums, propositions, recalls, those are all direct democracy. Our system is a democratic republic, which uses representatives elected by the people to operate the government. Now, that's a whole nother story we can get into, but that's how it's supposed to work. If we had that pure voting system, which can turn into mob rule, and that's the real danger I see in it. Now, if we had a pure popular vote system, many people would be disappointed with the 2016 outcome are now proposing. It would be feasible because of the third-party candidates to ensure that any candidate, because of third-party candidates, would win a popular majority. Now, let's see if we can open that up a little bit. Even in 2016, for example, although Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, she only received a plurality, 48%, not a majority, which has got to be over 51%. And third-party candidates took the rest. If we abandon the Electoral College, our adopted system in which a person could win the presidency with only a plurality of popular votes would be swamped with candidates. Now, what's that about? Every group with an ideological or a majority, I should say a major policy interest, would field a candidate, hoping that their candidates would win a plurality and become the president. Now, you can see, if you have 10 people on there, 9, get 10%. I think you can understand that. You could be elected by a small percentage of people, such as Ross Perot getting that 19%. If we abandoned the Electoral College and adopted a system which a person could win the presidency with only a plurality, I think you can understand the popular votes would be swamped with candidates. You could win with 20% of the votes, say, depending on the number of people that would be running for president. There would be candidates from all kinds of things, say pro-life, pro-choice, free trade, gun rights, anything. Now, we see this in effect in the parliamentary systems where a party with the most votes after an election has to put together a coalition of many parties in order to have a governing majority. Unless we were to scrap the constitutional system we have today and adopt a parliamentary structure, we could easily end up with a president elected by 20%. Now, of course, we could graft a runoff system under our Constitution. The two top candidates, say, in a 10-person race, would then run against one another for the presidency. But that could easily mean that the American people would have a choice between a candidate of the pro-choice party or a pro-gun party, which would be very limited. Now, if you thought the choice was bad in the last few arguments, it would be far worse. Now, those who complain now that it's unfair for Trump to become president when he received fewer votes than Hillary Clinton have not considered either the implications of what they're proposing or the genius of the framers in our present system. And that's you can see the chaos that can happen with all these different parties. I think you've heard such countries as Italy having that struggle with a multiple party system, trying to establish a majority for leadership. And as I mentioned before, the problem with majority rule, you could have, or direct democracy, you could have a mob rule. And you want to avoid that at all costs. And that's why we have this system. The framers, if you get into the Federalist Papers and see where the framers were pulling their information from, some of it is quite ancient. Say Greek, Roman governments, and then of course the governments that were available in Europe at the time. They were studying all those. Even the Christian empires, the Holy Roman Empire, in electing their pope. All of those things were opportunities to test and understand what it took to put a government together that could last. And that reminds me of one of the things that I believe it was Ben Franklin was asked by a person when they'd signed the Constitution, what they'd come up with, and he says something to the effect, ma'am, we've come up with a republic if you can keep it. And that's the challenge every day, every year, is to keep that Constitution, keep it operating, that has created the strongest and most amazing nation in human history. Well, anyway, that's what I've got for today on that subject. So like and comment on my videos, subscribe to my channel. Get out there and learn about our republic and what it's all about, and make it a great day.